Okay, picture this. The world is just teetering on the edge of a massive war. And caught right in the middle, you've got one nation in probably the most unlikely and, frankly, the most dangerous position imaginable. They're trying to be the mediator between two of the planet's most bitter enemies. We're talking about Pakistan's incredible, high-stakes tightrope walk between Iran and the US. And here's the kicker. This whole thing isn't really about ambition, it's about survival.
So let's just imagine for a second. The year is 2026. All those tensions that have been simmering for, decades, they finally boil over. The source material that we're diving into here paints this really dramatic hypothetical picture, a conflict that basically sets the entire stage for the story we're about to unpack.
So how does the world get to this point? Well, this whole scenario kicks off with a direct military clash, one that's threatening to just ignite a massive firestorm across the whole region. It starts with a huge US and Israeli strike against Iran. But here's the thing, Iran doesn't just take it. No way. They hit back hard, targeting critical energy infrastructure. And then they do something huge. They effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, that's like the jugular vein for the world's oil supply. Suddenly, oil prices just skyrocket, proxies like the Houthis jump into the fight, and the entire world is staring down the barrel of a global economic catastrophe. So, with all the big players locked in this conflict and the usual mediator sitting on the sidelines, someone completely unexpected steps up to try and sort this mess out. And believe it or not, that player is Pakistan. Yeah, Pakistan. A country dealing with its own really complex security issues and a shaky economy, and suddenly it's right at the heart of the effort to stop a global meltdown. It becomes the main go-between, the only real channel between Washington and Tehran. Which, of course, brings us to the big question here. How on earth did this happen? It's definitely not just a fluke of geography. To really get why Pakistan is in this unique spot, we've got to rewind and look at the history, which, let me tell you, is filled with some pretty surprising and often forgotten twists and turns. The relationship between Pakistan and Iran, it wasn't always this tense, suspicious thing we see today. Actually, for the first 30 years or so of Pakistan's existence, they were incredibly close allies, like brothers in arms. I mean, get this, Iran was the very first country to recognize Pakistan back in '47. Throughout the Cold War, both of them were key U.S. partners in the SINTO alliance, which is all about countering the Soviet Union. Their bond was so strong that in 1971, when Pakistan was at war with India, Iran secretly sent them critical military aid. But then 1979 happened. The Islamic Revolution in Iran just completely flipped the script. It shattered that alliance, turned friends into rivals, and put them on a collision course over things like the Taliban in Afghanistan. And this declassified note right here, wow, it gives you such a clear window into just how deep that old alliance really was. You've got Pakistan totally desperate, military supplies cut off. And who do they ask the US to funnel help through? Iran. Think about that for a second. That level of trust, using your neighbor as a secure backchannel to a superpower, it's just almost impossible to imagine that happening today. I mean, the shift is just so dramatic. Before '79, you have these two US allies, they're on the same page, part of the same team. After '79, Iran becomes fiercely anti-Western, and these old friends are now on opposite sides of proxy wars. The whole relationship just gets defined by suspicion and completely different foreign policies. And that massive break back in 1979, well, it created this whole legacy of problems that are still around today, and it forces Pakistan into this constant, really delicate balancing act. First off, you've got the physical challenge. We're talking 900 kilometers. That's a long, shared border, and a lot of it is porous and super hard to control. So this isn't just some line on a map, right? It's a living, breathing source of tension. It's a pathway for militants, for smugglers, for all kinds of instability that both countries have to deal with literally every single day. And it doesn't stop with the border. You've got a whole list of other headaches. You have militant groups like Jaish al-Adl causing trouble back and forth. You have huge economic projects like the so-called peace pipeline that are just stuck in limbo because of international sanctions. Then there's the intense pressure from outside, from the US on one side and Iran's big rival, Saudi Arabia, on the other. And maybe most importantly, Pakistan has to carefully manage its own internal balance because it has one of the world's largest Shia populations. Any kind of sectarian conflict in the region could become a massive problem at home. Okay, so let's bring it back to our 2026 crisis. With all of that complicated history and all of these modern pressures, why in the world would Pakistan voluntarily jump into the middle of this firestorm? Well, part of the answer is actually in how Pakistan's foreign policy is structured. The sources we're looking at call it a kind of dual-track diplomacy. Think of it this way. The really powerful military establishment, which has these deep old ties, handles the relationships with Washington and with Riyadh. Meanwhile, the civilian government keeps the lines of communication open with Tehran. It's this sort of quiet, unofficial division of labor that makes Pakistan so crucial. It's the one country that can actually talk to everybody, even when they refuse to talk to each other. And we're not just talking about vague chats here. This is real, concrete stuff. At the very center of it all is a detailed 15-point plan from the U.S. for how to de-escalate. So this isn't just passing a message along. It's basically a roadmap to pull everyone back from the brink, covering everything from sanctions to proxy groups. And who's the only courier trusted enough by both sides to actually deliver it? You guessed it, Pakistan.
So does this mean Pakistan is this new, rising diplomatic power? Or is there something else going on? Well, according to experts like Michael Kugelman, this isn't about ambition at all. It's about fear. Pakistan's got enough of its own problems at home. A full-blown war on its western border is the absolute last thing it needs. And this all leads to a concept the source material calls the logic of desperation. The basic idea is that Pakistan isn't playing mediator to become some big shot on the world stage. It's doing it to survive. It's stepping in because the alternative, a regional war, a total economic collapse, sectarian violence spilling over the border, that's just a nightmare scenario that's too terrible to even think about. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In a world of giants, when the big powers start throwing punches, does the real heavy burden of making peace actually fall on the nations that have the most to lose? The ones who aren't strong enough to win the fight, but are just vulnerable enough to get completely crushed by it?